This is JJ Solomon.
This is Ray Bradshaw, Mr. RTBA. Mr. Lee Boys can't touch me on my worst day. This is the Spit Bucket Podcast.
The Spit Bucket Speed Bag is brought to you by Diggles Elite Clothing.
Welcome back to the Spit Bucket Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We got a lot to cover today, Mr. Bradshaw. Jumping right in. We're talking boxing pay-per-view numbers.
No, let's not talk boxing pay-per-view without talking about these pay-per-view fails. Bud versus Porter.
Bud versus Porter, 135,000 pay-per-view sales. That fell flat. Top-ranked Bob Arum has said on record he's lost money every time he's promoted a fight for Terrence Crawford. I don't know which 135,000.
My thing is, the real bosses of boxing, they finally showing up and showing out, and we letting all these promoters from the 214 to across the pond to let them know we're gonna show up and show out and not pay for a pay-per-view fight that we don't want to see.
You think 135,000 was bad? Let's talk Tank Davis and Isaac Cruz coming in at, what was it, 50,000, 52,000?
Yeah, 50,000 between 30 and 60,000. This is Javante Tank Davis, ladies and gentlemen. This is the same guy who floored Mayweather and Leonard Ellaby. They say he's the biggest star in the planet. He's the young best fighter on the planet. Well, them pay-per-view buys showed me that people ain't thinking about Tank Davis right now, especially him not committing to fight the young best fighters out there.
And you know what? I mentioned this last week, and I'll say it again. You know what killed that? Tank Davis is a star, but you don't put boxing on a Sunday during football season. You don't do it on a Sunday anytime, but especially during a football season, man. So I think that was a direct response to that, in addition to him fighting Isaac Cruz, who most people had never heard of.
Speaking of another pay-per-view fail, this is a guy who's very entertaining. This is a guy who captivated the boxing public. Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, 65K.
That one surprised me, man. That one surprised me. Jake Paul has his gigantic social media, YouTube following. It seems like anything Jake or Logan touch turns to gold. But 65,000, he has to be disappointed. I think that was a fail for boxing, and that was boxing's big, hope and dreams and Hail Mary. Hopefully Jake Paul could bring in some numbers, and even that failed.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Surprising. This was very surprising. The way I seen Jake Paul captivate not just boxing fans, but everybody from the 214 to across the pond, and to just see this guy do 65K in pay-per-views, but the real bosses of boxing, once again, they showing up and they showing out.
What do you think about, we don't have Luis Ortiz last weekend against Martin. Why is that a pay-per-view? What do you think? What do you think the numbers are going to look like, man?
I don't think nothing.
You don't think nothing? Yeah, let's go on to the next one, man. And then we've got Keith Thurman coming up with Mario Barrios. Again, a pay-per-view that doesn't need to be a pay-per-view, Mr. Bradshaw.
I tell everybody, once again, from the 214 to across the pond, I'll be very surprised if Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios do over 10,000 pay-per-view buys. Nobody asking for this, JJ.
No, it's a pay-per-view card. The entire card is filled with losers, man. And I don't mean losers as in these guys are losers. I mean their last fights are coming off of losses. We haven't seen Thurman fight since
Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, we haven't seen him fight since Manny Pacquiao. And he's coming back against somebody who just lost
to Tank Davis, who just beat Isaac Cruz at 135.
And we have to pay to see this, man. So I'll say this. I got a pop quiz for you, Corey. Out of those 5 fights we just named, can you think of something that's in common with them? 4 out of the last 5 fights we just mentioned.
Yeah, I could think of something very in common, and it's a 3-letter word: PBC.
The premier boxing champ. What's going on, PBC? What's going on? I remember a day back in my childhood when we heard of a boxing pay-per-view, it was damn near a holiday. It was a holiday. Everybody was talking about it. If it was on pay-per-view, 9 times out of 10, you're in for a legendary night. And now they're just putting these things out like it's nothing, like it's just expected. What's up with that, man?
And what's so sickening about it, we thought Premier Boxing Champions and Al Heyman was going to come in and change the landscape of boxing. Yeah. All this exciting stuff he was talking about doing and captivating the audience has been a terrible fail.
It's hurting, and I got to say it again. As long as they keep putting these fights together and not giving us the fights we want to see, and to your point, the real bosses of boxing, I think we're finally speaking up and we're finally showing that this ain't gonna work. We have had enough, and we've got the numbers to prove it. Like they say, men lie when women lie, but these terrible numbers, you can combine all these numbers together and that's not even a good pay-per-view showing. So yeah, let's get this shit right, boxing. Let's get it right. It's about that time to start rewarding your fans for being loyal.
Facts.
DC with Diggers Elite Cleaning, y'all. We have 2 deodorizers here. What we specialize in is one of the things that makes our brand stand out. When you come clean your home, you can get one of. This is one of our deodorizers. It's a little ice in, but most of our customers love it. But if there's something going on in your home, it's that smell that you cannot get rid of, hit us up. This is the deodorizer that you might want to use. I don't care if you got a skunk in the building. This is gonna basically get rid of that smell.
This week in boxing history, Mr. J.J. Solomon, January the 14th, 1979, we got Rafael Benitez. He won the belt in his 2nd division against Carlos Palomino. Big dog.
Yep, he came up to welterweight. Palomino was a champ, and Benitez came in and won the fight, man, and that ultimately set him up for the big fights with Duran, Hearns, Leonard. Legendary career. And next day we got is January 17th, 2015. To this day, Deontay Wilder finally shows up to the scene, gets his first belt, his WBC championship against Stavern. That was a big day for that was a big day for Wilder.
Oh, not only was it a big day for Wilder, it was a big day for the American heavyweight boxing scene again. One thing we have to give Deontay Wilder credit for, he re-energized the heavyweight division, not only in America, but from the 214 to across the pond. We haven't seen a guy who came out with as much knockout power like Deontay Wilder did since Mike Tyson. So big dog salute to Deontay Wilder.
100%. Big shot.
Let's go.
We go on birthdays now. January 14th. January 14th, Gabriel Rosado turns 36 years old.
Happy birthday.
The old warrior, but he's still scrapping. He's still giving it his all.
January 15th, legendary. They call him the alien.
The executioner.
The executioner. Bernard Hopkins. He turned 57 years old.
Happy birthday, B-Hop. The very next day, ironically, January 16th, Mr. Roy Jones Jr. Y'all must have forgot. You must have forgot. Yeah, you must have forgot. Roy Jones Jr., happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday.
53 years old.
Hey, man, on that same, on one day after that, legendary trainer also was a good fighter coming up, Buddy McGirt. He turns 58 years old.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. McGirt. Listen, this is one of my favorite fighters kind of through my teenage years, early 2000s. January 17th again. Marco Antonio Barretta. Oh, happy birthday, 48 years old. Real quick memory. Bro, when he beat Prince Nassim. Oh my goodness, I was jumping out my chair. He showed the world that Prince Nassim wasn't what Prince Nassim said he was.
Not only did he, after he beat him, we ain't seen no more of Prince.
No,
I seen my man. So happy birthday, Marco Antonio Barrera. But the big one.
Oh, the big one. This is a 1-2 punch.
This is a 1-2 punch. We got one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, in Muhammad Ali, and one of the greatest trainers, if not the greatest trainer of all time, in Customato, January the 17th. Happy birthday to them two dudes.
R.I.P. to the legends, man. The boxing scene would not be what it is today without Customato, who basically discovered, raised, created the machine, the monster, the man, Mike Tyson, and then Muhammad Ali. I mean, what else? What else is there to say about Muhammad Ali? The greatest Muhammad Ali. So happy birthday, R.I.P. And thanks for all your contributions to the sport.
Yeah, man, what Muhammad Ali did for this sport and just for people of all colors, you know, to unite us and just change the world in a landscaping change like he did, you know, with his efforts.
Standing up for what he believes in.
Standing up for what he believed in, you know, like when he say he is the greatest, he was more than just the greatest as a fighter. He was the greatest with the things he did on the outside of the ring as well. So
he wasn't a bad boxer either, was he? So happy birthday. That's This Week in Boxing. TSB Spitter is brought to you by the Crib Cashers. You need to sell your home quick, skip the repairs, any condition, any situation, no closing costs, no realtor commission, and have a cash offer for your home in 24 hours. Just call 214-494-1340 or visit thecribcashers.com. That's thecribcashers.com.
Man, spit of the week, JJ Solomon, man. And this is my spit of the week. It comes from a loyal group member in Edgar Alice. He quotes, I state, Canelo unifies, become undisputed at 168 and is criticized. He say, and no one at 160 unifies and no one bats an eye. Now, everybody from the 214 to across the pond, I need everybody to stand up and give Edgar Atlas a big old hand clap for that. You understand me? Because that's truth coming to the power and power coming to the truth. Everybody want to reign like sourpuss over Canelo, who's actually unified a division. But the 160, they does nothing and no one bats an eye. Man, stop playing with me.
I love it.
Shout out to Edgar Atlas. Man.
Yeah, shout out to Edgar Atlas, fan of the show, fan of the groups. Appreciate you. I got me a spit of the week, and I thought this was some fire. Mine comes from Mr. Jake Paul. You may have heard of him. I'll read it to you. He's challenging Dana White. And get this, man. You know, he's got his plans to be a boxer and wants to climb the ropes, but he says, I will retire from boxing and fight George Masvidal in the UFC if Dana guarantees UFC fighters 50% of the UFC's annual revenue, increases fighter pay to $50,000 per fight, because right now the minimum is currently $12,000, and provide long-time health care to fighters. I think this is brilliant. I think this is why you see these UFC legends moving over to boxing, because they've done taking a beating their entire lives and careers, and they don't have anything to show for it. So let's go do these silly exhibitions. I don't care if I get my ass kicked. It doesn't matter, because I need money to support my family, because fighting is all I know. So Jake Paul, I'll tell you what, I was a little critical of the Paul brothers when they came in, but Jake has a heart. Jake cares about the fighters. Jake cares about the sport. So that is my spit of the week. Kudos to you, Mr. Jake Paul.
And not only that, he shows that to the fighters. Look at Amanda
gave him
Serrano. She's a millionaire.
$1 million payday.
Salute
so good for her.
Now let's get to the spit of the week.
It's you.
And everybody from the 214 to across the pond. Hey yo, Stephen Fulton, aka Cool Boy Steph, out that 215, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hello, sir. Let me holler at you. Hey, JJ Solomon and everybody. This dude and Cool Boy Steph, aka Stephen Fulton, the unified 122-pound champion of the world, he had the nerve, the audacity to say Terrence Bud Crawford, a dude who been mentioned on the pound-for-pound list since he beat Yordenis Ugas, at the time undefeated and was a 2-division champion. This guy had the audacity to say Terrence Crawford fight like a street fighter.
That style, Crawford got a street fighter, wild more style, and Errol has a more technical stance to it, if that makes any sense.
Like the nerve of you, Cool Boy Steph. How can a dude who's basically pissing excellence, a dude who in his 3rd division, a dude who is the real boogeyman in boxing, Fight like a street fighter. That's my shit of the week. Stop playing with me.
Yeah, Bud's a mean guy. Bud's a mean guy. I don't mean he's a street fighter. He's a damn technician is what he is.
Man.
And I got me a shit of the week. My shit of the week goes to big old smiley grin, headbutting, kiss you on the cheek after I headbutt you and then get knocked the hell out, Victor Ortiz. Biggest quitter in boxing, but Victor, you put out a tweet from @ViciousOrtiz. My 2022 fight goal. Let's go. Number 1, Jake Paul, tune-up fight. Sounds like you're broke and you need some money. Number 2, Canelo Alvarez. Why you want to fight Canelo Alvarez, man? That's going to really put you in the hospital, dog. Danny Garcia, who's minding his own damn business in Puerto Rico. Why you want to fight Terrence Crawford? What? Errol Spence Jr. Those are your 5 goals for 2022. That sounds like loss to Jake Paul. I'll say it, shit. Jake Paul, you might beat him if you hit him. So if you hit him hard enough, he'll quit. Canelo Alvarez, murder. Danny Garcia, don't damn about you. Terrence Crawford, murder. Errol Spence Jr., murder. That's my shit of the week, dog. When you were at the top of your game, when you were a relevant name, you'd get into these fights, you'd quit these fights, you'd start cheating in these fights, then I'd be embarrassed to be from Kansas right now if I was a Kansas boxing fan of Victor Ortiz. So that's shit of the week, Mr. Ortiz.
Yeah, it's definitely shit. But hey, we got to give him an A for thinking big.
Yeah, that's a nice New Year's resolution.
It's some shit.
that's the TSB spit or shit of the week.
Here it comes!
TSB main event brought to you by Overhead Door Pros. Fellas, if you can't get it up, you need to call Overhead Door Pros. These guys get the job done right and get out fast. You can call them at 817-689-9906 or visit www.garagedoorsorus.com on Facebook.com Overhead Door Pros.
Oh boy. Na. Guess who's back again. Spence is back. Tell my friend. Hey guys, all right, here's our main event. Mr. Errol The Truth Spence Jr., Dallas, Texas own, is coming back to defend the strap against Ugas. Corey, I know we got some opinions on this. I know you don't think the pay-per-views are gonna do well. What do you got to say, bud?
I mean, everybody from the 214 to across the pond know this pay-per-view not gonna do well. You know, this is a fight. If you a purist, you know, you can't hate on the fight because it is definitely a unification fight where one of these guys are gonna end up with 3 belts. But this ain't the fight that we wanted. We ain't asked for this fight. And just the audacity, you know, of what boxing is coming to. How all these dudes who post or who say they the creme de la creme or say they the big fish in boxing, they start acting and doing things like this. That's why boxing is where it's at today.
It's 2 champions. It's one champion who's made a mark on the sport against another champion who just defeated a legend in Manny Pacquiao. So to me, when you say I don't think this is a good fight for pay-per-view, I don't think it's gonna sell well, I don't understand where you're coming from, man. You got 2 champions, it's a unification fight, 2 champions. Ugas did his thing against Manny on short notice. So help me understand, Corey, how you don't think this is good for boxing, good for pay-per-view. This is one fight, I know we're talking about pay-per-view early, but I think this deserves to be on pay-per-view, and I'm okay with paying for this. I really am.
Okay.
I see you just staring into my soul. What's going on?
I'm trying to figure out, you know.
You said this fight's not going to do.
I'm trying to figure out your way of thinking because you said, let me quote what you just said. Let me rebuttal what you just said. You said you got the guy who made his mark on the sport. Who? Errol Spence?
EJ, yeah.
What mark did he make?
They're talking about him.
No. Salute to Errol Spence. He is one of the top welterweights in the world, but nobody's talking about him like they used to talk about him. You can't scroll up your articles and see all the comments about him. And then you talking about Ugas. He beat who? A 42, 43-year-old Manny Pacquiao?
Who was about to fight EJ.
So what? Yeah. But what did that do What did that do to the boxing community to make us say that Errol Spence versus Ugas is a pay-per-view fight? I could give a damn.
Spence got
belts on the line.
Why would
this
we
is
be
not a pay-per-view fight?
Why would we be talking about Spence when he had a terrible car accident, and we don't need to get in the background of that, but he had a terrible accident that shelved him for a while, and he was coming back fighting a legend. I thought that was a little bit of a mismatch and danger for Manny, but he was coming back fighting a legend, putting his belt on the line. He suffered an injury. Again, we're not going to talk about the background and what people think. Suffered an injury. So why would we be talking about him? Why would we scroll through our articles and see?
But you say why would
he made his mark?
But you say why would we do this? Why would we do that? You just brought up the car wreck. You just brought up.
No, I said he was gone. He was gone.
It doesn't matter. But you brought it up. He had that car wreck. That's called self-doing. He had the eye injury. That's called self-doing. That's his fault that he wasn't active and in the ring. But that's neither the point that we're talking about. We're talking about pay-per-view.
You said we're not talking about it.
I said, should Errol Spence versus Ugas be on pay-per-view? Absolutely not, because guess what? We're not asking for this fight. Nobody from the 214 to across the place said, oh, I want Errol Spence versus Yordenis Ugas in April. And we ain't jumping up and clicking our feet.
Spence was going to fight Manny. Ugas beat Manny. So the next thing to do is fight Ugas. Listen, I want to see Spence versus Bud more than anybody. You know, that fight's kind of starting to expire and lose its shelf life, but I still want to see it. But you can't ask Spence to come out from a, 18-month layoff now, or however long it's been since he's fought Danny Garcia, to jumping in the ring with arguably the best fighter in the world. Now, this fight is still very risky for Spence, man. It's still very risky. I want to talk about why. I want to go back to the pay-per-view point. You said you think this fight's going to struggle to get 100,000 pay-per-view buys. I don't understand that, man. Listen, I'm a big Bud fan. I think Bud's number one. You asked me what has Spence done to the sport or to the welterweight division. It's torn down the middle right now. 50% of welterweight fans say Bud will win that fight. 50% will say Spence will win that fight, and Spence hasn't even been active. So yeah, he has left his mark because he has been active, and we're still talking about it.
What articles are you scrolling up to where you see people saying Errol Spence is going to win this fight?
I don't think Spence. You talking about against Ugas?
Against Terrence Crawford if that fight would happen. But let me go back to what you said.
Let's talk about Ugas.
Let me go back to what you said about Errol Spence. Like, nobody cares about this fight.
Let me tell you.
JJ, the real bosses of boxing are showing up and showing out. You can't give us something that we're not asking for. No one discrediting and saying it's not a good matchup, but it's not a pay-per-view fight that everybody jumping up. So it bothers me with you saying, oh, this is a pay-per-view fight. What about Errol Spence versus Ugas is a pay-per-view fight? Because Ugas beat Manny Pacquiao?
Belts.
You talking about Errol Spence, why would he come out and fight Terrence Crawford? Well, why would he come out and take a high risk, low reward and fight Ugas?
How's that low reward?
When it's a possibility that he could lose, because if he loses this fight, he lose out on a lot of more money that he could have made against Terrence Crawford. That's why this is a high risk, low reward.
Spence is betting on himself. Spence says Ugas is dangerous. Spence knows if he loses this fight, the Bud fight is out the window. So I believe that Spence has enough faith in himself. He's betting on himself. It is a risky fight. But if you put all the injuries away, all the bullshit away, side by side on paper, Spence should win this fight. Any fight you can lose. We've seen it. Any given night you can lose a fight. But let me tell you why these pay-per-view sales are going to go. All right, we saw Bud had 135,000 pay-per-views against Sean Porter. Historically, Spence has done better pay-per-views than Terrence Crawford. That has nothing to do with their ability in the ring. But I'll tell you why, dude. Spence is from DFW. There's 4 times as many people in DFW than there's in Omaha, Nebraska. That's who's buying the pay-per-views. So right from the jump, you've got your DFW fan base who's been stuck with watching Paul versus Woodley, Ortiz versus Martin. They are excited about their guy, their knight in shining armor, coming back to fight a title fight. Not just anybody, a title fight. And guess who Spence has backing him up?
Hold up.
Oh, Jerry Jones.
That don't mean
nothing?
No, nothing.
Every time
it don't mean nothing.
Jerry doesn't relate to numbers? It doesn't equate to numbers?
It doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean nothing.
The Dallas Cowboys on your back mean nothing.
No, hold up.
You heard it here first.
I said it means nothing when it comes to boxing.
Pay-per-views is what I'm talking about.
It means nothing. Because Jerry don't control the real bosses of boxing, which is us, the fans. He sit here and he say, oh, DFW is 4 times bigger than Omaha, Nebraska. It might be true, but guess what? It may be 4 times bigger, but 3 times of that is not pleased with the way Errol Spence has been handling himself ever since Terrence Crawford jumped up to the welterweight division. Now, point speaking, when you don't want a fight, when you're not asking for a fight, don't give us a fight that we're not asking for. Because like we spoke earlier, the real bosses of boxing with the pay-per-view numbers are showing up and showing out. Don't tell me that Errol Spence is a bigger star than Jake Paul right now. I don't see it.
I don't, but to your point about the bosses of boxing, the fans are the bosses of boxing. We saw Jake Paul versus Woodley 1. Nobody paid to see that again. All right? That you can't really compare the two. Errol Spence Jr. is still a star. He's a star from Dallas, Fort Worth, one of the biggest markets in the country. He's a star who's got the backing of Dallas Cowboys. I know that sounds silly, dude, but when Jerry Jones stamps his blue star on you, that's money. You told me that you do not think, you told me that you don't think that this fight is going to outsell Bud Crawford. You don't think that Spence versus Ugas is going to do more than 135,000 pay-per-views. Do you genuinely believe that?
I'm telling you that with a straight face, that Errol Spence versus Ugas will not do more than Terrence Crawford versus Sean Porter, because the real bosses of boxing, we are fed up with this prima donna way that Errol Spence is acting. Let's not get this twisted. This was a guy who came out ferocious. This was a guy who said he wasn't gonna act like these other guys. But then when this guy started enjoying the fruits of his labor and he became champion and he said, Robert, I got it, Bill, but nobody don't want to fight me, he doing the same thing to this other guy in Terrence Crawford. Look, I'm not saying Ugas versus Errol isn't a good matchup. It's not a pay-per-view matchup.
I think it's 100% pay-per-view. I think Errol Spence has his fan base. Listen, I'll bring up an example. When Oscar De La Hoya started making music and started singing and making music videos about how much he loves these women, Oscar De La Hoya's fan base checked out. They were upset. I'm speaking from experience. But Oscar De La Hoya made his return to the ring. I think it was against Ricardo Mayorga. And he won his fans back. And I have, you all right over here?
Yeah, what that mean?
What do you mean? I'm saying, yeah, maybe Spence's fans are a little salty and a little upset about what he's been doing, and it appears that he's avoiding, and make the face he made at the Crawford fight.
No, I'm just saying, but it ain't about it's about boxing. It's about boxing as a whole, and that's where you missing me on the point. You kept talking about.
I'm talking about pay-per-view numbers.
Got the Cowboys.
I'm talking about pay-per-view numbers.
Look,
that's all I'm talking about.
Everybody say, nothing lasts forever. And when they come with Errol Spence, you see him steady dwindling down. This went with a guy the most talked about, who to people are looking at different. And you just got to see that and put some respect on that. He's not that same guy that we used to talk about as this could be superstar, because of the way he's handling the entire situation, with the Terrence Crawford situation. And Ugas is a fight that we're not asking for. And for you to sit up here and make a straight face and say that is a pay-per-view fight, like, to me, that's a disservice.
My standards, I will say, my standards for pay-per-view have lowered over the past 10 years. The crap that we've seen as pay-per-views, this blows it out of the water. I am willing to guarantee that Spence and Ugas does more than 135,000. Ugas earned the fan base last week, but I will say it to you, I will say it to you guys, Spence Ugas is going to clear 135,000 pay-per-view buys. You can bet that.
I don't see it. I'm just looking at how the numbers have been for these so-called big stars who people said were big stars in boxing. I look at a Gervonta Davis, who has the backing of one of the best, if not the best, when it comes to promoting himself or his company, and you see their numbers and the way they dwindled. I just don't see it. The numbers are proving, as you stated earlier, women lie, men lie, numbers don't. And all the numbers have been showing us from these pay-per-view fights that have been putting on that it's been a decline. That's because the real bosses of boxing, not only are we showing up, we showing out.
I'll take it, and the only thing that we have left to do is wait and see. I believe it's going to be a good fight. I believe it's a great matchup. I think Spence walks away. I think it's going to be a tough fight, and I think the pay-per-view numbers.
You think Spence walk away what?
I think Spence takes his fight. I think it's a close fight.
So. I don't think so. You have to, like I said, I don't look at Spence as that same guy. Like he don't look like he is hungry.
You've said it yourself. Spence was on another level.
Absolutely.
In his heyday.
Yeah. 5 years ago, when he was hungry. It's a difference from being hungry to when you done made some money and you got comfortable.
I agree. I do agree 100%. In terms of hunger, I think Ugas right now is hungrier to prove that the Manny thing wasn't a fluke. But that is my point. The fans are going to tune in because we saw what Ugas did to Manny. Ugas made himself a name to that in a household environment. Everybody loves Spence still, especially in Dallas-Fort Worth,
That's not true.
We'll see. We'll see what the numbers show.
I mean, Spence is a love fighter. I'm not saying he's not loved, but there's a lot of people who has a distaste.
I got a bad taste in my mouth right now, too.
Spence is one of the pioneers. He one of the guys, like Gervonta, one of the guys, like Lomachenko, but Lomachenko fight the fights, but he one of the guys who supposed to help propel the sport, and his actions ain't showing that he's trying to propel the sport. That's why you say he's loved. I defer to that. I think a lot of fans from the 214 to Across the Pond have a bad taste in their mouth for his actions. That's on him, because Errol is the one who's in control of his career. Like he say, I'm my own boss. So because of him.
I got a bad taste in my mouth too, Errol Spence, and his antics as of late, but I'm still tuning in. And I believe with all my heart that the fans will tune in too. I think DFW is going to support him. The boxing community is ready for a pay-per-view fight with a unification fight. I think the boxing bosses will come to prove a point.
I don't see it. I've been on a lot of social media, and people have campaigns, and you can't be mad at them because, like I say, these fighters of today, they act like that the consumer and us means nothing, and a lot of people are sick of it. With all the new technology that's out. People are saying that they're not paying for this fight. They're going to stream this fight. And you have to understand, for boxing to get better, for anything to get better, if you don't make a stand, then nothing will change. And what showed me from the end of last year, leading up to this year and going forward, change is a-coming.
We'll see how it goes. I'm excited. It's about the only damn pay-per-view I'm excited about right now, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But
no interest at all.
I think we are about out of time. Is that right?
No interest at all. Yeah. Shout out to everybody.
Shout out to everybody for tuning in. Thanks again. Like, share, tell your mama, tell your auntie, tell everybody. Go tell your neighbors about the Spit Bucket Podcast. We got big things on the way.
And one thing again, y'all know, 10% of our proceeds go to the TSB Warriors Foundation. So we need everybody to make sure y'all go to thespitbucketpodcast.com. Go get your merchandise, hats, hoodies, all different type of caps. Make sure y'all go support the TSB Warriors Foundation, because everything we do, 10% go back to the fallen warriors.
Yep, absolutely. And just a couple of pointers. Check out our big project we're working on, tsbnft.com. We are in the NFT game. We're making a presence in the metaverse soon, so go check it out. Go like some, start collecting these things, and we've got big plans for NFT holders very, very soon. So check out the social media. Also, right here, I think it's right here somewhere. I don't know where he's got it. It's our Cash App, man. It's our Cash App that we didn't talk too much about last week. But listen, we've got a monthly jackpot. Every donation that comes to us, every $5 donation is one entry for you. At the end of every month, we're going to do a jackpot, and we're going to split all those donations with one lucky winner who's donated in the past. So we thank you for the support. We thank you for the contributions. Thank you for watching. Keep following, keep supporting, and tune in next week.
And everybody, y'all make sure y'all go to our YouTube page, The Spit Bucket Podcast on YouTube, and subscribe to our YouTube page. So when we drop these videos, y'all be able to hit that bell notification, and y'all get them first. Thanks everybody for watching.